has given us some incredible standout moments. So many, in fact, that Tabata quite literally spoils us. Almost every single chapter, something significant happens and its execution is top tier. But what I want to discuss today is not how often Yuki Tabata is a talented writer, but instead how talented of a writer he is. The best example of peak Tabata writing, in my opinion, and I know a lot of people won't agree, is the revival of Julius Nova Chrono. This is a moment that divided the fandom, and depending on who you ask, showed who the real Black Clover fans were. If you were even a tiny bit upset by this reveal, then you're totally justified in having that opinion. When I first saw this, I was livid. I was like, this is some bullshit. Wait, why did I censor that? I said bullschlappadabbading-dong. Duh, what'd you think I said? But seriously, a lot of people were mad. So mad that some even dropped the manga. Seemingly faithful fans just straight up quit. But what I failed to realize was that this was actually genius. See, it's a tricky thing reviving a character after killing them off, especially if they're a beloved and important character, because their deaths end up meaning something and adding to their depth as a character. Reviving them, unless done perfectly, can take that depth away. Now, am I saying Tabata did this perfectly? No, that is not what I'm saying. It wouldn't have ruffled so many feathers if it were, and truthfully, I'm still not sure how I feel about it. But I do know that from a logical standpoint, it actually makes sense and connects with the rest of the story shockingly well. See, people were mad because the reveal happened at the end of the chapter it happened in, and while I feel it was Tabata's intention to hype the reader up for next week's chapter, like, aw man, I can't wait to see how this gets explained, it mostly ended up having the opposite effect, and people were like, what the heck? I don't care how this gets explained. That is some bullshit-ding-dong. But what the people who dropped it missed was, well, just that. The explanation. And it was a dang good one. Whether it was planned or not, I'm actually not sure, but it all comes together so well you would think it was. Basically, you know that tattoo he had on his forehead? That was actually a seal he put on himself. And what it was doing was holding time, storing it up. He stored up about 13 years worth, and when he died, not only did his grimoire fade away, but so did his seal. At the time, us viewers might not have thought anything of it, but this could have been part of Tabata's plan the whole time. Or at least he definitely planned to do something involving that, and this is just what it ended up being. But there's even more to make this explanation sound. So, Julius likes to wander out on his own a lot. We know this, we've seen him do it on many different occasions. Now, if you look back at the fight between Licht and Lumiere, you'll notice Lumiere using a tool that he and Sekre had made together to contain Licht's magic. This tool actually has a name, it's called Swallowtail, which is Sekre's last name, and it connects these two aspects of the story. So while Julius was out wandering one day, he happened to stumble upon Swallowtail. And of course, him being the magic nerd he is, he stopped to check it out. Turns out his time magic and Swallowtail were very compatible, and so he decided to use it to store up time for himself should the worst ever happen. If this wasn't planned, this was some next level last minute quick thinking, because literally everything makes sense. But the question still stands. Does reviving a character you killed off and then giving a well-written explanation behind it justify reviving them in the first place? Well... no. But what happens next does. Tabata wastes absolutely no time in putting Julius's return to good use. The very moment everyone realizes Julius is back, he starts telling us everything we need to know going into what comes next in the story. He tells us about Asta's demon and that his horns are a sign that he's connected to the other world. They're signs of what he calls Weg. Not sure what that means, but I'm sure we'll find out eventually. He talks about the Magic Parliament and that they're going to try and use Asta as a scapegoat to explain the whole attack. Since he has a devil in his grimoire, it'll be easy to pin the whole thing on him. Plus, he's a peasant. He also talks about the different kingdoms destroying the Clover Kingdom, and he gives a brief description of each kingdom and what we need to know about them. In his description of the Spade Kingdom, he mentions that they're demon-affiliated and are in possession of a number of evils that sleep within it. Us manga readers know that the Spade Kingdom is full of devils, and everyone who's come from there to attack and invade other nations has been in possession of one. Julius freaking knew this. He also tells us about the Heart Kingdom and what we can expect from it. Soon soon after, we see what's going on with all three nations, even if we don't see too much of what happens in the Diamond Kingdom, which is fine because we got to see enough, and it was painful to watch. But Julius talking about all this gets us ready for the idea of these three kingdoms being involved in the story more, which they almost instantly are. He then mentions that Asta will die, which obviously I hope he's wrong about, but now it's something we're all holding in the back of our minds. Tabata used Julius's return as a way to set up the next saga of Black Clover, since the Elf saga has sadly ended, and personally I think that was really smart of him. That in and of itself was nice, but it didn't end there, because if Julius hadn't been revived, Asta would really already be dead. It was only thanks to Julius's orders that Fulgolion and Nozel appeared in the courthouse and postponed Asta's execution. Only a few chapters since his resurrection, and he's already done so much for the plot. And that's because Tabata knew his return had to have significance. There had to be a reason for him to be back, something big for him to do. Now, one could ask the question, why did Julius have to die in the first place? If he's just gonna come back, why kill him? He would have made the battle against the devil so much easier. And yes, that's true, and exactly the reason why he had to die. Tabata had to figure out a way for Julius to be absent during the Elf arc, because he's too broken and literally every enemy would have been a cakewalk for him. Since Julius is the Wizard King and cannot officially leave due to his sworn duty to protect the kingdom, there was no other way to remove him from the picture so that the Elf arc could play out than to kill him off. But Tabata wasn't done with his character either and wanted to do more with him, so he brought him back, but fixed the issue of Julius being too strong by nerfing him dramatically. Otherwise, he'd have to be killed off every arc, which would be a death wish for the manga. So Julius coming back as a 13-year-old boy with one page making up the entirety of his grimoire kind of solves everything. We get to enjoy his character more, but he also has room to develop and grow stronger because, let's be honest, he was kind of at his peak in strength when he fought Patry, and there really was no room for growth in skill or evolution in magic. So in other words, this works. But the thumbnail says this mostly works, here's why, so now I gotta explain the mostly. As much as I have praised this action Tabata took, and how positively it's impacted the story, and how important it ended up being, it's not perfect. Even if it sounds great on paper, the fact that Julius is back when we saw him die is just kinda wrong? Is that the right word? No, it's not wrong, it's just bullshit. Slap it up a ding dong. It just doesn't feel right. The emotions we felt when he died were very real, and the anime only did more to evoke these kinds of emotions from the audience by adding in an anime original flashback with narration from Julius himself about why he wanted to become the Wizard King and everything he had gone through. So, for him to be alive again, even if he's nowhere near as strong and super useful and super knowledgeable, something about it just feels off. Considering the way it turned out, it's genius and extremely well done in theory, but in practice, it ends up diminishing the significance of his death. It no longer hurts to think about it anymore, yes, but now there's no weight to the moment either. Like seriously, every time I see Patry stab the man, instead of thinking, no, not Julius, I think, he'll be back soon. Now, I still think the story is progressing well, and I wouldn't even say this is flawed, because it's just about as perfect of a revival as you can get in anime, but that just goes to prove that reviving characters just isn't the greatest idea, and while this is only a small blemish on this beautiful, beautiful manga, it is still a blemish nonetheless. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. This is just something I've been thinking about for a while, and I wanted to give my thoughts on it because it's such a divisive decision on Tabata's part, and now that the anime onlys know about it, I can't really spoil it for anyone. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, give me a big ol' thumbs up, let me know what other Black Clover topics you'd like to see, and be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Don't forget to click always. With that, I bid you adieu. Bye-bye!